What's up, guys? LQ here with the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where I talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about. Movies, video games, comic books, and TV shows. And right now I'm going to give you guys my review of the new HBO Max original film, Salem's Lot, based on, of course, the Stephen King novel, Salem's Lot. There was a miniseries that came out a number of years ago. I've never actually seen the miniseries, and honestly, I've never read the book. And I've read a lot of Stephen King's books, and for some reason, I just never got around to Salem's Lot. And I've seen most of the Stephen King adaptations, and for some reason, I never got around to the Salem's Lot miniseries. So I really went into this movie with very fresh eyes on the material. I think in some ways that served me well, and in other ways, maybe not so much, but we'll talk about that here shortly. So this movie is about an author who returns to his main town, his town in Maine, and he finds out that the town is being overrun by vampires. And he ends up teaming up with some townspeople to try to put an end to this reign of vampires, killing the leader and killing the townsfolk who have been turned. Couple things I really... So first of all, the reviews on this were not good. And, I read some of the reviews, and I was like, oh boy, probably not going to like this. The reality is that I'm not a huge fan of vampire material in the first place. There's some stuff that I like, for sure. But most vampire stuff that comes out, I'm just not all that interested in. And I decided to give this one a watch anyways. And I really liked it a lot. So I'm definitely going against kind of the general consensus here. The general consensus is that this isn't good. I thought it was really good. And I think that's probably because of the vampire stuff that I tend to like. I don't like the romance vampire stuff. I don't like the vampire stuff that they have on TV, True Blood and all that garbage. I'm not even a big fan of like some of the more violent vampire stuff that they have. From Dusk Till Dawn was okay. The sequels weren't. The John Carpenter's vampires, didn't care for that. So when you start getting into the more violent vampire stuff, I'm not really into that as well. The vampire stuff that I really like is stuff like The Lost Boys. I love The Lost Boys. It's one of my it was one of my favorite movies growing up. Funny or not, the Christy Swanson Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I really liked that movie growing up. I haven't revisited it in a number of years, but I really liked it. So my relationship with vampire films is kind of weird. But I really liked this, and I think some of that comes down to it feels a little bit like it's set in that Lost Boys type of vampire film. Like it's got some of the Lost Boys DNA in it. This is kind of like that. One of the primary players in this movie is a young kid named Mike. Mike loses his friends to vampires. Spoiler alert, he loses his parents to vampires. And he loses everything to these things. And he decides he's going to take up the wooden stake and go after them. I think in a lot of scenarios, having a kid go vampire hunting would feel a little silly, but given what we know about this kid, he's lost everything, I think it feels like it works. And it also feels like it works in like a 1980s Steven Spielberg Goonies type way, right? Where you've got maybe even a little bit of like It, the Losers Club, where you've got this kid who he's been pushed to the limit and he's going to fight now. So I really enjoyed the Mike aspect of it. And the team that's put together by the author. The author is played by Bill Pullman, who's popping up in a lot of stuff lately. But this author, Ben, he's able to put together an interesting team. You've got, what's his name? Matthew Burke, played by Bill Camp. You've got Dr. Cody, played by Alfre Woodard. Excellent, excellent character. One of my favorites. She actually finds a way to stop herself from being changed after she's been bit. I thought that was interesting. You've got the local pastor, Father Callahan, and they put together this team to go fight these things. Also, Ben's love interest, Susan. But ultimately, they put together this team to go fight these things, and they do. What I love about it is, number one, they don't all survive. But number two, as the movie goes on, you can feel the desperation grow and grow. You can feel the number of living people in this town shrink and shrink to where their isolation becomes more and more apparent, to the point where we don't know if there's anybody left in this town except for our people who are actively fighting the vampires. And I thought that was great. Just like I said, the isolation, the desperation, and what are we going to do next to fight these things? I felt that they did a great job of sticking with the vampire lore that we know and making it feel real, making it feel usable, making it feel like we're not just sticking to the tropes of vampire movies. We're going to use these things in interesting ways. So I enjoyed all that. The final battle takes place in a drive-in movie theater, and I enjoyed that as well. I thought that the way that they used the sun setting, the line on the ground as the sun started to eclipse the ground, some of the ways that they used the sun to fight the vampires, I thought all that was really fun and really well thought out, and it definitely translated well on screen. If there's some bad stuff, I think that the fact that this is an adaptation of a novel, I think that there are some characters that we never really got to know, that felt like they would have been much bigger players in the novel, felt like they would have been much more flushed out in the novel than they are here. Here it seems like they're there because they're in the novel. One of those would be Father Callahan. The other one would be Matthew Burke. These are some characters that feel important. They feel really important. But we just don't know enough about them to really care what happens to them. And I think that's probably a weakness that probably doesn't exist in the novel. But overall, I really liked Salem's Lot. And again, I know I'm in the minority here, but I really liked it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was reminiscent of some of the older 80s vampire movies that I really liked. There were parts of it that reminded me of The Losers Club and It. Parts of it that reminded me of The Lost Boys. And parts of it that kind of reminded me of the Christy Swanson Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So because of that, I'm definitely giving this movie a positive review. And I would say check it out. All right, but that's just my take on it. What did you think of Salem's Lot? Let me know in the comments below. While you're down there commenting, subscribe to my channel. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.